Hello and welcome back to the Follow Your Spark podcast. It's your host, Gina Casbaro, and I am so excited to have today's guest with us today, Scarlett Stanhope. And I have had the pleasure of meeting this incredible human across the screen from me. We are in a business mastermind together and have been or have known each other for the past year and a half, maybe. I don't know how far back we go now. And I don't know, before I get into who she is in the world, I'll just say, I don't know. I'm guessing if you're listening to this, you've probably had this experience too. And Scarlett, I've never said this to you, but have you ever felt like you see someone in person or online and you just get this like intuitive spark of like, oh, they're my people. We're going to be friends. That's definitely how I felt when I saw Scarlett for the first time, especially with her beautiful background. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see. So, yeah, our relationship has evolved over the years, and I'm so delighted and grateful to call you a friend and a business buddy. So, that's how we met. And to share who Scarlett is in the world, Scarlett Stanhope, aka the Biz Hippie, is someone who teaches coaches to conquer their finances and own their worth so they can be fully supported by the work they love. And Scarlett harnessed the power of money to break free from her workaholic career path and pursue her dreams. And she uses this combination of tangible money management strategies, as well as a variety of different coaching techniques to help her clients transform their mindset and relationship to money, which allows them to strategically achieve their goals and live their best lives. So I'm so excited to dive into all things money and abundance with you today. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. I am super excited about this. The moment that you invited me, I was like, yes, that sounds amazing because I resonate so deeply with the entire theme of this show and this podcast and really your message and what you teach as a coach and also how you live your life. So I feel like it's going to tie in so perfectly and we're going to create such a valuable episode for all of your listeners today.
I love it. Thanks so much. And yeah, I've talked about money like once or twice on the podcast here. And I do think this is such an important topic because it's something that I see too, for sure. And like following your spark, money can be something that really gets in the way of people being able to pursue that spark, whatever it is. So I'm really excited for this conversation on how to create breakthroughs in that because, like I said, I think it's something that can really hold people back. So, the first thing I want to ask you, which is the first thing I ask everyone, is when you hear that phrase, to follow your spark, what comes to your mind, if anything? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think really following your spark means listening to the call of your heart or this part of you that really desires something different or something more than the typical, whatever you were taught you were supposed to want or whatever you were taught you were supposed to do. But there's this call to do something different. And it's a choice to listen to that and to trust that other part of you and to let that lead you. And similar to what you just said, like money really can be the thing that holds you back from doing that. And so another part of following your spark is really peeling away these layers of things that can hold us back and stop us from living the lives we want to live, doing the things we want to do, and instead being able to pursue that intuition, that inkling, that calling, that desire without letting things get in the way of us being able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good. So again, just like listen, being able to listen to your heart and peel away whatever blocks are kind of preventing you from hearing that call, following that call. And I'm so curious, I've known you for a while and I don't know like the whole background of your story. And I know in your bio, you talk about breaking free from this like workaholic career path. So I'm super curious, what was this workaholic career path? What were you doing before you were coaching in the way that you do now?
Totally. Yeah. And this is it makes perfect sense, like this conversation that we're having, because my whole journey has been one of learning to follow my spark. And there was a whole chapter of my life where I was absolutely not doing that. And really what it comes down to is the difference between being a passive participant in my life and now becoming the active participant in my life and learning to say yes. Like that's really what has evolved. But before I was doing that, I always love to say growing up, I was a perfect type A high achiever persona, right? I got straight A's. I crushed it at school. I was like the best student. And this bled into my young adulthood too. I always got good grades all the way through high school and was also started working by the time I was 16 and started managing restaurants by the time I was 18. So I was very much this like business persona person. I wore 4-inch heels for 11-hour shifts with a full face of makeup, contact lenses, false eyelashes, blazers. Like that was my look. That's who I was. And so meanwhile, I'm like this 18-year-old girl managing a team of like 20, 30 people, all of whom are older than me. And at the same time, I was also getting my bachelor's in business management, accounting, and finance and crushing it. I was like maintaining my 3.9 GPA. I was full biz mode and I was checking all the boxes. I was getting my degree, maintain the high GPA, managing restaurants, was making more money than my friends were, was putting money aside in savings. I had $30,000 saved by the time I was 20. I had 0 credit card debt, paid for college out of pocket, all on my own, like no student loans. So on paper, like I was doing really great and was crushing life. And people looked at me and was like, yeah, Scarlett has it all together. But at the same time, internally, I was a shallow, empty, hollow shell of a human who was lacking fulfillment and purpose. And really, I didn't even know who I was or what kind of life I wanted. And so, meanwhile, I'm over here depressed, suicidal, having constant migraine headaches, covered in head to toe eczema, and couldn't even figure out that something was actually wrong. Being in this environment, being in a relationship with someone who didn't even speak English, like there were so many things that was off with my life. And yet I couldn't even recognize it because I thought I was just doing everything right and someday would cross this magical threshold that told me, I've arrived, you've done it, and now you can finally start living and doing what you want to do. Until one day I woke up and realized, oh, wow, that magical threshold is not coming, and I am living my life right now, and it's up to me to start living it.
Was there a tipping point moment, or was it just like a culmination of all of those things of like after enough time you're like, this sucks, like this is not, I can't keep doing this?
Yeah, there was absolutely a tipping point moment. I believe that in order to spark change, something really needs to actually spark us. And most of the time, that has to be a rock bottom. Because if you're comfortable in the discomfort of the life you're living, then you have no reason to change it. And so the universe tried very hard to wake me up many times, and I was clearly not getting the message. Even though it could have been so obvious, like you'd think, I'm driving home at 2 a.m. with the radio blasting, driving 100 miles per hour, like screaming and tears streaming down my face. You'd think I'd recognize there's a problem. I've basically considered myself homeless, disconnected from my friends and family, and I'm like living with this guy who doesn't speak English. You'd think I'd notice that something was like wrong, but no, I didn't. And there was like more instances and events like that happened, but I was really just like so going with the flow of it that I still didn't even realize anything was wrong until one day I was leaving work very late, like after 2 a.m. And my coworker handed me an edible, a marijuana edible, and was like, here you go, hold this. And I like popped it in my mouth. I was like, okay, sweet. And then 2 seconds later, she goes, where's your edible? And I was like, what do you mean? Like I ate all of it. She's like, you ate all of it? I was like, what? Like you handed it to me. So there was a miscommunication. I consumed so much marijuana and we walked over to the nearby bar, which was part of the same like company. So we knew the people there and we were friendly. And I'm halfway through drinking a beer and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to leave. Like I have to go home. So I drove to my boyfriend at the time's house, which was luckily not too far away. I had too many horror stories of driving while high at this point in time in my life that, yeah, was part of those scary wake up call moments. And so I'm at my boyfriend at the time's house and I'm laying there and I have all these epiphanies about my life, marijuana induced epiphanies about how, oh, wow, this is the reason why I'm covered in eczema is because I'm in this environment, because it's literally so uncomfortable to be in my skin. And like just really stepping outside of my body and outside of my life and seeing my life really clearly and being like, what is happening? Like, what am I doing? And then once I've had all these epiphanies, I like come back down, and my very next thought is, oh my gosh, I'm having seizures and dying. And this is like a near death experience of me having my life flash before my eyes. I was also young, didn't know anything about drugs. It was always, like, don't do drugs. Drugs are bad. It's very shameful. So I'm thinking, like, of course I could overdose on this. Of course I'm dying. And so in that moment, I genuinely believed this was the end of my life and had a near death experience, panic attack moment, and laying there in this bed next to this person in this moment, I honestly just was like, okay, well, this is the end. I'm just going to lay here and die. And it really felt easier to, again, be an indecisive, passive participant in my life, just like I had always done up until that point. But there was something within me that said in that moment, well, if I'm going to die, then I do not want to die here in this room, in this bed with this person. And so I got up, got out of bed, left the house, went and sat in my car at 4 a.m. and I called my mother. And I'm like on the phone with my mom, like, I'm dying, I'm having seizures, I had marijuana. Like, and I had been hiding the fact that I like needed help, the fact that I was suffering, the fact that I was even like partaking in alcohol and marijuana. And so it was really the first time I asked for help and admitted that things were not okay, and really like went back to my community, my family, my safety that I had really separated from. And that was the moment that really changed everything for me. And it wasn't like black and white. It wasn't like the next day I woke up and my whole entire life was different. It was still a very slow and steady progression. But really, that moment in time was the first time that I took action for my life and made a choice about my life instead of letting life make choices for me.
Wow. It's definitely a powerful story. And like you said, whether it's an actual near death experience or you're having a panic attack and you think you're dying, there's something that happens when you really question of like, wait a second. If today really was the last day of my life, would I be happy with how I spent it? Would I be happy with where I am in this moment? And when you're presented with that question and what feels to be so real, like, yeah, what a powerful catalyst to be like, no, this is not how I want to live my life. And if this is the only day I have left, I'm gonna actually do something about it and die, in control, or die like in action rather than just letting life happen to me.
Totally. Yeah, right. I mean, life gave me so many opportunities to wake up and make a different choice and make a different decision, but I wasn't taking the wheel. And so I literally did need to be confronted with my own death in order to make a choice and make a decision about my life. And even then, it still wasn't an obvious choice. I would still like, are you sure I need to make this decision? So sometimes you have to go like smack the ground really hard to wake up. And I know that that's what had to happen for me.
Okay, so you're in this moment, you realize this is not the way you want to be living life. And like you said, it was kind of a slow evolution after that. So I'm curious what brought you from there to now like a money coach. Why money? Why is money so important? Why is this topic so important? Why is that what you decided to go all in on in the work that you wanted to do?
Yeah, yeah. So after that moment, it really became a deep personal self-discovery of rediscovering who am I, what's important to me, what kind of life do I want to live, because I had never really considered it before. I was just going with the flow of what I thought I should be doing based on these societal expectations of success and money, right? So in a lot of ways, even though you could look and be like, oh, Scarlett had a great relationship with money, she was doing all these things right with money, money was still controlling my life. It was impacting my decisions and my choices. In fact, it had already been impacting my decisions even before, this pivotal moment in my life. And so I started to discover like, who am I? What kind of life do I want to live? And what is most important to me? And
Mm,
slowly through that process, I began to redevelop self-trust, self-love, self-confidence, because it's kind of hard to trust yourself when you are not the one in control of your life and you allow yourself to be put
mm,
in these harmful situations and you allow your life to get that bad. So I had to
mhm,
learn to trust myself and then also discover like what's really most important to me. And that's when I
mhm,
started to heal in so many ways, and eventually
mhm,
became a coach. Before that I got really into yoga. Yoga really changed everything for me. I became an avid yogi, and then I shortly after I got my bachelor's degree, it was 1 month later that I got my first life coaching certification, and I wasn't
Mm.
planning on becoming a coach. It was just a good skill to have, but by the end of the 2-week intensive training, I said, "Okay, this is what I'm going to do," and I just doubled down on it. And so the whole
Mm.
first year of my business was more focused on personal growth, personal development, and helping people just in general, like general life coaching, helping you live your best life, focusing on building that self trust, self love, self confidence, because that's what I was good at. That's what I was used to. But, and at the same time, I also continued to say yes to everything that lit me up, like becoming a yoga instructor, like starting to travel and attend retreats, starting to say yes to other certifications and expand my own skill set. And then it was about a year into my business when I was having a conversation with a woman who I had met on a retreat, who was also a coach, but had a full time job, who was saying to me how she was so stressed about money and how she felt like, she made decent money, but it felt like no matter what, she was always struggling. She was always living paycheck to paycheck, even with her consistent 9 to 5 job. And so she couldn't imagine ever going full time in her business and ever being fully financially supported by the work that she loves. And I realized in that moment, I said, "Oh, actually, I have a lot of skills to help you with this, because not only do I have my bachelor's, I also used to work for a company that helped people manage their money." And that's really
Mm.
where I learned about personal finance. And at the start of my business, I had really rejected all things business, all things money. But then having this conversation with this person, I said, whoa, this is actually really important. In order to live the life you want to live, you have to feel in control of your money. You have to feel empowered and confident financially. And not only do we have to do the internal work that I had really been working on, but we also have to be financially wise and financially strategic in order to pull off living your most abundant life. And so after
Mhm.
that conversation, I just doubled down and said, okay, this is what I'm meant to do. Is I'm meant to support people in truly transforming your relationship with money from the inside out so you can feel empowered to live your most abundant life without money ever holding you back.
Yeah. And again, it just sounds like following the sparks, whether it was the degree that you studied or the other jobs that you have, the conversations, the people that you're meeting. And it was just following those breadcrumbs one at a time and really realizing like this is something that is so pivotal and makes such a difference in people really being able to follow their spark, share their gifts, live their most authentic, abundant life. So, what powerful work to be sharing with people.
Yeah,
Um, I
absolutely.
know that, of course, there's like so much in the programs and the coaching that you teach. And I'm curious if there was like one thing, one key that you feel like was a crucial skill or just something so important when it comes to mastering your money. Is there anything that like comes to your mind right off the bat?
Yeah, yeah, and there's definitely a couple components. I think I'm gonna boil it down to 2. I know you asked for 1, but I can boil it down to 2.
Yeah.
One is the internal work that goes into transforming your relationship with money. Because your money and healing your money is one of the deepest levels of personal growth and development that you could ever do, because it ties into your foundational need for safety and survival. It also
Mhm.
ties into your self-worth and your
Mhm.
beliefs about yourself and the world and what you're capable of doing and what you're allowed to have. So we have all these limiting beliefs around money, but they're also reflections of limiting beliefs we have upon ourselves. And this is what scarcity looks like, is these different scarce-based beliefs. So the first part of transforming your relationship with money really comes down to the inner world of how are you creating this life that you're currently living right now and why? And how can we shift what you're manifesting, what you're creating to be in alignment with the life you really want to live? How can we get out of this scarcity mindset and belief system and rewrite the money story to be one rooted in abundance? And that's
Mhm.
the first foundation. But then the second, equally important foundation is the tangible work around money, the external side of money, which is actually learning to manage, track, and be in control of your finances. Because this is putting your money on paper and seeing really clearly what choices are you making about your life. Because your money is a tool for manifestation. It's how you create your life every single day. And so it's looking at what are you choosing, what are you deciding, and what are you creating, and how can you
Mhm.
be in control of this powerful tool and wield your money really intentionally to
Mhm.
create the life you want to live and to manifest your money. And we can only do that by actually learning how to manage and be in control of our finances.
Yeah. And I mean, our money tells a story. It's something that is such a valuable, precious resource. So if we really have the courage to face and look at where we're spending our money, what we're investing in, it paints this picture of what matters to us, whether consciously or unconsciously, what are we choosing to prioritize and invest in?
Oh, yeah, exactly, exactly, and I think that's why it's so important to have both of these because most people I talk to are either one or the other. Like, either you're doing all the internal mindset, maybe even, like, manifestation work, or you're going really hard in the strategy and really hard in figuring it out, but really you need both because it's money is just as within, so without. Whatever you have going on inside with your money, consciously or subconsciously, that's gonna show up in how you spend your money and vice versa. How you choose to spend your money and look at your money is a reflection of what's going on inside. So in order to really get in control of your money and get in control of your life, we need to address both aspects of your money.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I know one thing you talk about a lot is how to cultivate abundance now, how to feel abundant now, even if like what you're looking at in your bank account doesn't necessarily reflect the abundance that you want. So I'm curious if what you can riff on about that, or what can help people feel abundant now, even if it feels like their monetary reality isn't what they want it to be
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. I truly believe that abundance is not an amount of money, it's a state of being. And I have seen this to be true time and time again because I've worked with clients on all income levels. I've worked with clients with not much money coming in, they're literally in the negative month after month. And I've worked with clients who have awesome money coming in. Like they're making really great, amazing, consistent money. And I've seen these same clients feel like it's never enough. They feel like no matter how hard they work, how much they do, it's just never enough. And they're constantly on this hustle hamster wheel of working hard and trying to get more and hoping that, again, someday you're going to cross this magical threshold and finally have enough. But that's just not the case. The
Mhm.
only way to really feel abundant is to feel abundant now and is to cultivate that feeling of abundance today, starting with the money that you have. And it is possible to feel that way, even if you don't have as much money as you would like. And it really comes
Mhm.
down to a feeling of enoughness. And this starts first by believing I am enough. And then also I have enough. And I think the
Mhm.
definition of enoughness needs to come back to the present because a lot of us are focusing
Mhm.
on, like, I'll have enough when X, Y, and Z. I'll be
Mhm.
enough when X, Y, and Z. And so it's coming
Mhm.
back to the present and saying, what do you have? What are you choosing? How are you in control now? And it's really taking that power and bringing it back into today.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Why do you think that's? I mean, we've already talked a little bit about it, but for people who have maybe tried this, like whether it's a gratitude practice or they feel like they're trying the things, but it's not working, what would you say to them? They're like, yeah, I hear that. That sounds great, but like, I still really don't feel abundant, or I'm really struggling to like embody this energy.
Yeah, totally. And you know what? Sometimes it can be hard, but I actually think it comes back to facing your money and getting your money on paper because it can be really uncomfortable too, especially if you feel like you don't have a lot of money to get your income and your expenses down on paper and to really see clearly what's happening. But
Mm-hmm.
most money stress actually comes from fear of the unknown. And so when you can't see your money clearly and you don't know what's happening to it, like that's actually what creates money stress. And that's what can cause you to feel like you never have enough. because you don't know actually how much you have. You don't know where it's going, and it feels like money is controlling you instead of you being in control of your
Mhm.
money. So
Mhm.
putting your
Mhm.
money on paper and seeing clearly what is actually happening, how much do you have coming in and where is it going, that puts the control and power back in your hands. So even if it feels uncomfortable to face those numbers, even if you don't feel abundant when you face those numbers, now you can do something about it. You can make choices, you can make decisions, and that cultivates the feeling of empowerment, and that leads to the feeling of abundance. I once had a client who said, she got on a coaching call with me and she said, right now in this moment, I have $10 in my account. And yet in
Mhm.
this moment, I feel more abundant than ever before because I know I can do something about it
Mhm.
versus feeling powerless to your situation. And you can only do that by facing your money, being capable of processing the emotions that come with
Mhm.
that, and then being the one in control and responsible
Mhm.
for your life.
Yeah. As you were talking, these words floated into my head of I am not my money. And being able, like you talked about, the internal work and the external work, and being able to really separate, like you said, your self-worth from the dollars in your bank account. And that can be such a huge detangling when we're raised in a culture where we're taught otherwise, where we're taught that our worth and our value is the amount of money that we have, is the car that we drive, is the house that we own. So being able to really rewrite that story of like, I am not my money, whether I have $10 in my bank account or not, that doesn't dictate my worthiness. I feel like I could hear people being like, yeah, that's great. And I still need to pay my bills. And it's like, yeah, okay, we live in this physical reality. And once you're able to separate that and let go of the intense emotions that can come with the shame and the judgment and the guilt and all the other things, like you said, then you can start taking back your power and looking at your situation from a more neutral standpoint, from a more like observer standpoint, and really begin to explore, what can I do about this? Yes, I want to make a change here, and this doesn't mean that I'm incapable, and I actually have the power to shift this.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you highlighted that too because it's super common to attach our worth to things, whether it is money or even just these other like external things. For example, growing up as a kid, you're taught like, oh yeah, when I get good grades, like I'm praised. When I do this thing, then I've done it right and it makes my parents happy. Like if I do this, then I'll get attention. Like we're constantly learning about our worth and what we're capable of and what is possible and what is not. And this is true for the world we live in. It's also true for money and it's true for ourselves. And this actually does have a direct effect on your flow, your cash flow of money too, because if you are living in a world where you're seeking these external circumstances, external validations, but you can never really get there, you're leaking so much energy and it requires so much effort to bring that money in. And you're bringing that money in from a scarce based place. It's exhausting. Scarcity
Mhm.
is a energy that will fizzle out. So this is what can cause burnout too. Versus being in the energy of abundance means owning your worth, feeling like you are deeply worthy and deserving no matter what, simply because of your existence alone, and being able to feel safe within yourself no matter what, no matter how much money you have. Like that is such a powerful energy to live your life from. And when you do that, those are the foundations of abundance, and that energy expands and multiplies. So, yes, I get you do need to pay your bills. Of course you do. So do I. And it's going to be so much easier for you to attract and magnetize a flow of money if you're living your life from a place of enoughness by believing that
Mhm.
you are enough and that you are supported no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, so good. One thing I'm curious about, if you could kind of take yourself back to or remember more towards the beginning of your journey when you were rewriting, some of these beliefs, was there ever an investment that you made in yourself that felt really scary to make? And if so, how did you walk yourself through making that investment?
Oh my gosh. Yes, for sure. And it's been so interesting seeing my like journey through investments, because investing in myself has been a huge part of my journey, because like we've already talked about, like where you spend your money is how you create your life. And so I have had to practice spending my money in alignment with the life that I want to live at higher and higher
Mhm.
amounts. And that does look like investing. So, a specific story is within the first year of my business. I had been in my business almost a year, not quite. And I met a business coach and was having a conversation with a business coach and got on the sales call and was presented with an opportunity to go through her one on one business coaching container. And I do remember it was about $2,600. And at the time, I was like, holy crap, like this is so much money. And also, I don't even really know if this is going to work. I don't know how it's going to go. And I also distinctly remember having this conversation with my boyfriend at the time. And that conversation was so hard. It was so hard. I was like crying and I thought I was crazy. I was questioning myself. I was questioning my life. We like nearly broke up over this conversation, basically. And
Mm,
even though that conversation was really hard, there was a part of me that knew that I had to do this, where
mm,
I just felt the pull and the call and the spark really that said, I feel like this is the next step. I feel like this is what I need. And really, what it came down to was the fact that I was taking my business seriously and I wanted to
mm,
take my business seriously. And I wanted to be someone who does own and run a successful business. And so, of course, I need to learn the skills to do that. Of course, I need to take the steps to do that. And so, even setting aside the program itself and the container itself, that moment was really a decision of how seriously am I going to take my business or not. And the truth is that I was so committed. I was so serious where I was willing to sacrifice anything for it, including my relationship. I said very clearly to my boyfriend, I said, listen, if it's a choice between you and the business, I am choosing the business, like no questions asked. So even though it was really, really hard and scary, I did invest in that coach and I did make that decision. And I believe that that commitment to myself and that commitment to my business was worth the price on its own.
mhm. Yeah. So it sounds like being able to take yourself and your dreams seriously, ask yourself, what do I need? What are the skill sets that I need? What support system is going to help me get that? And one thing that I think is so, I don't know if funny is the right word, but I'm assuming your college degree probably cost way more than $2,600, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's what we're used to. Like so many people are used to going to college and they think nothing of, or maybe not nothing of, but they, they go to college, they pay for college, they take out loans to invest in college, they think it's worthwhile to take on massive debt in order to get that education because that's how, I don't want to say we were all, but that's how many people were raised. I know how I was raised. Like, okay, you went to high school and then you went to college. Like, that's just what people did. So you
Totally.
just figured it out. So if we were all taught from a young age of, okay, you go to high school and then you choose what you want to invest in yourself and what path you want to pursue and you invest in whatever resource is going to help you choose that path, then that would be the norm. So it's like this
Totally.
$2,600 investment, I would imagine felt very different. Well, let me ask you, did it feel different than like investing in college?
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. Because it wasn't a norm. And everything that you said too, just like societally. But, I had built my relationship to myself enough where I trusted myself enough to say, even though this feels scary, even though it feels crazy, even though everyone's looking at me and telling me that I'm crazy, like something within me tells me that this is the right investment. And I'm going to trust that even though
Mhm.
it's hard. And I also believe that the more that we do this, the more that we normalize it, then the easier it becomes. The easier it becomes for everybody. And it's so interesting too, because that was a $2,600 investment. And it was one of the hardest investment decisions and conversations I had ever. And then flash forward 4 years after that, I made a $26,000 investment in a 30-day period, and that was, like, the easiest decision ever. So it is just really interesting to see, like, how my relationship to investing and money and my business and growth has totally changed over the years, and
Mhm.
I think this is part of what actually contributes to being a successful business owner, like, being
Yeah.
able to follow your spark, being able to live the life you wanna live is developing the resilience and the capacity to invest in yourself and wield your money in such a big and
Mhm.
powerful way.
Yeah. And I think the other piece that plays into this, and I think that's why also the inner work is so important, is I would imagine, people think, oh, if I get this college degree is going to be the key to me getting a good job. If I get a master's, if I get a PhD, I'm going to put that on my resume and someone's going to see it and they're going to want to hire me because I have this external thing or this proof. Versus when we invest in our own brains through something like coaching, through the desire to create our own business, we're really investing in ourselves. And it's not like some other external factor that we're counting on to yield a return on investment. And I think about this too of how easy it is for, and I can speak for myself as well, like investing in the stock market versus investing in coaching or investing in different things. Again, because we're taught of like these external things, this is what people do. You invest in the stock market, you invest in real estate, these are normal. And again, it's some external thing that we're hoping is going to yield a return on investment that in some cases like the stock market I don't have to do anything about it, or I have minimal things to do, versus when we invest in our own brains, then we have to do the work. Then it's like up to us to get the return on investment. It's not going back to that passive and active. We have to be in the active driver's seat of our life. And we have to believe that we're capable of getting a return on investment. We have to believe we're capable of growth and willing to do the hard work versus just hoping, oh, if I drop my money somewhere else and, this house, it's going to appreciate, just cross my fingers, that's going to be the case. We have less control over that. And yet it can feel easier for so many people. So yeah, I'm curious what comes up when you hear me talk about any of this.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. Because that's it betting on yourself, really. That's what you're doing when you're investing in yourself is you're betting on yourself. And I think that this ties back to self-worth and owning your worth. Because if you truly trusted yourself deeply, if you believed in yourself deeply, if you knew you were worth it, if you knew your vision was worth it and that you were capable, that you would show up, that you would follow through, then of course it would be easier to invest in yourself. It's because
Mhm.
we question, like, am I worthy? Am I deserving? Am I going to get results? Like, is this the right choice? That all comes from the internal of,
Mhm.
am I worthy? Am I deserving? Am I capable? And so the more that you deeply trust yourself and are also able to feel safe in risk. I think that's another part of building a successful business and also cultivating abundance. Like, cultivating abundance means expanding in all directions. It's expanding your
Mhm.
capacity to hold in all directions. So that means
Mhm.
expanding your capacity to feel deeply, expanding your capacity to experience life deeply. And that really shows up in entrepreneurship, in business, and in investments because
Mhm.
you're taking a big leap of faith and bet on yourself.
Mhm.
And that leads to massive personal growth and personal development to be capable of doing that and to be capable of actually going all the way through to that and getting the results on the other side.
Yeah, 100%. So I would love to hear if you can talk about how do you support people with these things? If someone's listening right now and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I need help with my money." Like what resources do you have available? What programs do you teach?
Yeah, so I have a signature offer called Empowered Abundance, which is a 6-month group container to help you completely transform your relationship with money from the inside out. And we address a lot of what we've talked about today. We address both the internal side of money and the tangible external side of money so that you're getting a complete transformation. And there are 5 key steps that I take my clients through. One is uncovering seeds of scarcity. What is creating your current life? What subconsciously is keeping you stuck where you currently are? Then I help you build financial foundations so you can see your money clearly and get in control of what's actually happening with your finances. Then I help you tap into your vision. What is your most abundant life? What does that look like? If money wasn't an issue, if you could really just live the life you want to live. Then I teach you how to embody your most abundant identity, to become the version of you who is already living that life, and also to see your most abundant life is already real now. And
Mm,
then the last thing that I help you do is be strategic with your money and wield your money strategically in alignment with your vision so you can literally bring your vision to life and literally use your money as a tool for manifestation to continue to bring more and more abundance into reality. So this is the work that I do in Empowered Abundance. It's a super in-depth magical transformation of a program. I highly recommend it to anybody who is looking to really transform your relationship with money so you can live the life that you want to live.
mm, love it. Oh my gosh, it sounds so good. So, if someone wants to learn more about this program, how can they learn? When does it start?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have group rounds running throughout the year. At the time you're hearing this, we're actually enrolling for the final round of 2025. Enrollment is closing soon. So you can learn more about the program and even book a free consultation with me on my website, thebizhippie.com/abundance.
Awesome. So definitely check that out. All the info will be in the show notes. On Scarlett, this has just been an amazing conversation. And I would love to know if there was one thing that you wanted to leave people with, if you wanted them to remember from this conversation, what would that be?
Absolutely. And I think that really comes back to the fact that you can be the one in control of your life. And in fact, you already are the one in control of your life. And it is 100% in your control to take back power
Mm,
and control of your money so you can follow your spark, so you can live the life you want to live. And so you can step into the abundance that is here just waiting for you.
awesome. And speaking of following your spark, the last question I love to ask people, because for me, following your spark is so much of just following these curiosities, inspirations, giving yourself space and permission, whether they make sense or not. Is there anything in your life recently that you've been following that's been lighting you up?
Oh my gosh. I follow so many sparks. Gina, my whole entire journey is absolutely following sparks. We didn't even get into all the every single spark I followed. So, yes, I'm constantly following sparks. And right now, what's really funny is the spark. There's two. One is I am a collector of healing modalities. I have a bunch
Mhm.
of other healing modalities under my belt besides coaching. And I recently learned a sound healing modality called DNA potentiation, where you potentiate your DNA so that you can, just overall be healthier and cleaner and be healed. So that's been a really fun modality that I've been learning to stack on top of my other myriad of healing modalities. And then the other spark that I've been following is actually like a deepening of coaching support around my relationship, which is
Mhm.
really like a totally different threshold for me because I've gotten very, very comfortable investing a lot of money in my business and
Mhm.
time and energy and really committing to support around my business. And now I'm still with the same guy from the
Not the
beginning
one
of
who
this.
didn't speak English
No,
from the.
no, not that guy. The one that we had that whole conversation about my first investment, and he knows it's been either him or the business, and he is happy that I choose the business. But now I'm like, you know what? I'm going to choose the relationship a little bit more. And so I actually
Mhm.
was exploring an investment to get more relationship support and relationship coaching, which is totally
Mhm.
different than anything I've really invested in at this level before. So that's another spark that I've been following.
Yeah. And like you said, our investments show what we value, what we're committed to. So it sounds like that's an area of your life right now that feels really important and worth nourishing and investing in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. All right, my friend. It was so good to have you. And I cannot wait to share this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope something in this episode resonated with you. I am so curious to hear, what is the spark on your heart that's calling you forward? What dream are you ready to pursue? If you feel this deep yearning for something more and yet the vision still feels unclear, let's talk. I offer free clarity calls to help you explore what truly matters, uncover what's been holding you back, and find out what simple, powerful practices you could be implementing that would propel you towards your dreams. I promise you will walk away from this call feeling inspired and lit up about the life you want to live, compelled by why it matters, and clear about the next steps you could take to get there. And like in all the work I do, I will invite in intuitive guidance by pulling oracle cards to open up to whatever messages would serve you most in this moment. Whatever it is that's been calling you, it's time to stop giving yourself reasons why you can't do it. You are so much more capable than you imagine, my friend. If you'd love support believing in a bigger vision for yourself and actively taking steps towards making that possible, head to ginacasbarro.com/clarity call to book your free call today. The world needs more people courageously following their purpose, passion, inspiration, and joy. And I cannot wait to hear about what that looks like for you. All right, my friend, until next time, I'm sending you so much love, and don't forget to follow your spark.